Story 1. It happened to me this weekend. My partner and I went to a late-night movie on the first date night we've had in months. We have a 2-year-old toddler, so getting time can be difficult. During the film, this teenage kid in front of me lifts up his phone and starts taking pictures of the screen and posting them on Instagram. I let it slide 3 times before gently nudging his seat and asking him not to do that. He turns around with the most annoyed and surprised look on his face, as if he'd never heard the word no before, tells me to get lost and watch the movie and stop bothering him. Despite this, he puts down his phone and I think it's sorted. Lo and behold, 2 minutes later he does it again, except now he's lifting his phone higher and seemingly trying to get it even more in my face. So I lean over again and ask him to stop doing it or I'll go and get the staff. Again he tells me to get lost, but now his mother decides to interject loudly, telling me to mind my own business and that I shouldn't tell her kid what to do. I repeat asking if she'd like me to get the staff. She swears at me and tells me to go ahead and do it. Half the cinema is staring at this point, so I get up and fetch a staff member. While I'm gone, this lady turns around and stares my partner down for over a minute, pulling her fingers at her and just being a general nuisance. I return with a staff member who takes the mother outside for around 10 minutes. About 5 minutes into that, the husband goes out to join in the conversation. Eventually, they come back and lean over to tell the kid not to go on his phone anymore. The kid then loudly exclaims an extremely offensive insult. I just sigh and try to enjoy the film. He spends the rest of the film endlessly fidgeting and moving his hands around as high as possible. Not ideal, but better than watching this kid's Instagram feed. At the end of the film, as they go to leave, they turn and stare me down, so I respond, "You need to learn some respect." The kid starts grabbing his crotch, making faces and being a little weirdo. I kind of laugh and tell them to grow up and get lost. As we're leaving, we pass them in the hall and one of them mutters, "So mature." At this point, I'm completely done with it, so I turn to the mother and say, "You are an absolute failure as a parent. You should be ashamed of yourself." Naturally, this doesn't sit well, and she starts losing her temper. She steps into me, a 6'2" man, screaming in my face that I should get lost and mind my own business, that I have no right to tell her kids what to do. I reply that she's clearly incapable, so someone needs to. If she isn't going to tell them, then I gladly will. This flips her switch even further, and now she's literally trying to fight me, telling me I have no right. I'm like, "Lady, what are you going to do about it?" She copies me back. "What are you going to do about it? Huh? You going to hit me?" I laugh in her face and tell her, "No, because I'm not pathetic." At this point, her husband steps in, holding her back and yelling at me, "Why are you attacking my kids?" "Bro," I repeat, "your failures as parents, as one parent to another, you absolutely disgust me. You need to stop acting like children and grow up." At this point, everyone in the hallway is staring at us. This lady's screaming, the husband is holding her back and yelling how I'm such a loser for attacking their kids. So my partner and I just turn and leave. I'll admit I threw back a few curses of my own on the way out, probably not the best of me, but at that point I was just done. Date night ended on a bit of a low, but I walked away happy knowing that those sorts of people will inevitably get themselves in more trouble than they can deal with. Story 2. So back in the day, my husband bought me a laptop from Sainsbury's and I needed to return and exchange for a different model. As he worked there, we got a chunky discount, so it made sense. I waited for one of the 2 lads working in electronics to become free and off we went to the laptop area to discuss options. After a couple of minutes, a lady came over and asked him for help. He looked at me, back at her, and told her he was dealing with me, and there was another assistant at the desk, so she trotted off without issue. I smiled at him, told him not to worry, and we carried on discussing my options, when another lady did the same thing. I'm well aware that I have resting bitch face, being a middle-aged, menopausal woman, but let him handle it again, until she insisted on him helping her first. I asked her, in my sweetest tone, "Excuse me, what makes you more important than me?" and just looked at her. She stood there, said, "It'll only be a minute," and I asked her again. No smile, sterner tone. She spluttered, looked at the assistant who directed her to the desk, and harumphed away. My lovely young lad couldn't contain his giggles as she left, stating that was the best shutdown he'd seen, and he was a little bit scared of me, to which I gave him a huge smile and laughed with him, then sorted me out with my current model that does everything I need and more. Don't mess with grumpy buggers, cheeky mare. Story 3. I want to know if there is anything wrong with this or not. It is extremely long, so there is no need to read it all if you don't want to. Background. I live with my mom and my siblings, who are 6 to 15 years older than me, on and off. Going to my dad's house on weekends until I was 13 felt like an escape. One of my nieces, the oldest, who is 4 years younger than me, is also kind of like an escape. We both have difficult fathers and hide our real selves from our parents because they are overbearing. This includes our genuine interests, hobbies, style, and even our mental states. As I mentioned before, I am the youngest of 5, and everyone is extremely protective of me, partially because I am the only one who is still a child. All of my siblings were not allowed to have phones until they were 13, which was the normal rule, but I got mine at 11 or 12 because of an incident at school in 6th grade. However, until I was actually 13, my phone was considered the home phone. I only had the number of one friend on it, and even that made me nervous because my mom said I was not allowed to have numbers besides family. I do not even know if that still applies. During the first year of having my phone, my mom would go through it randomly and take it for about 30 minutes. Even now, I have a lot of anxiety about leaving my phone out of sight because when I was in 5th grade, my mom went through my iPad, which actually belonged to my dad. She found my social media accounts and tried to delete the apps I had. I admit that I was not allowed to have social media at the time, but I only used Snapchat for the filters, Instagram to follow Korean pop groups and actors, and TikTok the same way I now use YouTube Shorts openly around her. I never posted anything or shared personal information. She also went through my messages and group chats with friends and got upset with me about what they said. Not even my own messages. I know I definitely have mental health struggles, including social anxiety, other forms of anxiety, and depression, partially due to my mom and the stress she causes, which she chooses to ignore. I may also have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism, and other conditions like eating disorders. On top of that, I have slight dyslexia, even though I have excelled in English language arts from a young age. I think that developed more recently. I once read that it might be called stealth dyslexia. I once mentioned depression in passing, not even referring to myself, and she told me that I had too good of a life to be depressed, and that I was taken care of just fine. She forces me to go places with her, like social events, and makes me talk to people. When I tell her that I struggle with making friends or even saying hello to anyone at school, she says that I can talk to people just fine. She also calls me rude when I do not make conversation with our family during gatherings. Even as a child, I hated social events. When I was about 5 years old, I wanted to leave the park if there were other people there because I was scared they would try to talk to me. My mom ignores the fact that I have had panic attacks and mental breakdowns at school and at home. Instead, she dismisses them as me just being dramatic. One time, when I was with my 20-year-old sister at the pediatrician's office, I privately told the doctor that I might have social anxiety and admitted that I did not want to talk to my mom about it. I am very scared about what will happen when my sister stops going to appointments with me, because doctors give me a lot of anxiety. The only exceptions are dentists, and when I am at the hospital for scoliosis care. Besides ignoring my struggles with mental health, there are many other issues, so I will summarize them. If I complain about the smallest thing, she turns it into a lecture about people experiencing homelessness on the streets and how she grew up poor. She uses her own childhood struggles to dismiss everything I say, but she needs to realize that we are not the same person and neither are any of her children. If I forget to clean my room or leave items on the floor, she threatens me by saying she will throw away all of my clothes or belongings that are left out. Sometimes she says she will take away all of my electronics, including my phone, computer, or even my ability to use the television. I sometimes blame my sister, who only showers about twice a week, for the poor hygienic habits I have developed. But I think my own habits may be connected to mental health conditions, not just laziness as my mom claims. She calls me lazy, gross, and says I like to live in filth. I also have curly hair and am tender-headed, so whenever anyone brushes my hair and I react, they call me dramatic and a crybaby, saying none of the other siblings turned out that way. My mom once even stated that the Constitution and personal rights do not apply to me when it comes to her. This happened because I jokingly said, according to the Constitution, when I did not want to attend the birthday party of my mom's nail technician's 4-year-old daughter. Despite my protest, I was forced to go to that party and another one a few months later. I live in constant fear that she will one day go through my phone and discover my YouTube, Pinterest, and Webtoon accounts, along with my search history. Even though I have not searched anything inappropriate, I am still nervous. I also worry about her finding out that I play the mobile game Love and Deep Space or that I enjoy Korean dramas. To avoid trouble, I usually pause my Korean dramas whenever she comes into the room and only watch them on the television when she is at work. I also avoid playing The Sims 4 when she is home. My only partial sense of freedom comes when she is working at night. That is why I stay up until about 11 p.m. Even though I have to wake up at 6 and this leaves me sleep-deprived every day. When I complain about my eyes burning, she insists that I need to wear my glasses because we use computers in 90% of our classes. But I know the problem comes from exhaustion, not just eye strain. I only began to feel comfortable truly using my computer, which I received in 5th grade as a school award, and my phone as my own devices about a year and a half ago. Even now, I remain cautious with certain things. I cry very easily, so whenever I cry about something real, my mom calls me a crybaby. She says crying does not do anything, and that it does not help or solve problems. My mom acts as if she owns me and disregards my mental health just because she believes she is a good parent in other ways. For example, we have gone to Italy and even taken a Disney cruise within the past 5 years. While those are nice experiences, they do not make up for the way she treats me or the things she has said. Thankfully, she has not been physically harmful, but the emotional side still hurts. I have been feeling extremely overwhelmed lately because I have been bottling up my true emotions and hiding my real self since I was about 12. Around my mom and siblings, I feel like I have to pretend I am super happy and energetic about 75% of the time. I even act a little silly or cute because that is how they view me as the youngest. This is just a side comment, but it bothers me when I mention how important the music group in Hypen is to me, and my mom dismisses it by saying I am lying or overreacting. It is not a joke to me at all. I am 14 years old, currently in high school, and we are a lower middle-class family, if that context helps. I am not comfortable sharing any of these personal things with my mom because I know her reaction would either be anger, yelling, or dismissing me as being dramatic. I even wrote this in an incognito tab on my phone while she was at work, and this account was made using a private email that she does not know about. I also thought this part was a little funny in hindsight. While we were literally on an airplane, she leaned over to look at my phone while I was playing a game called Lads. She saw a character named Caleb and asked, "Who's Caleb? Is he a real person? Why are you messaging him?" I kept telling her that Caleb was not real and that the messages were just part of unlocking progress in the game. I explained that I even played this game with my sister, who we had just visited, but she still questioned it. A few weeks later, I took a screenshot of a conversation the main character in the game had with another character named Xavier. Since my mom's email was connected to my phone, some of my photos automatically went to her Google account. Not all of them transferred, but unfortunately, that one did. I now use Samsung Gallery instead to avoid this problem. When she saw the screenshot, she called me into her room and began interrogating me. She finally stopped and asked my sister about it, and thankfully, my sister defended me. She explained that it was simply a game for the girlies, nothing more. Story 4. A bit of info before going in that will make sense later. I am a severe asthmatic, and recently I had to begin treatment to clear my airways of mucus. I am currently taking medication to help, but it is causing a lot of chest pain on one side and triggering a cough. I left home to go to work early in an attempt to see my girlfriend, but I found myself out of my work drinks, so a Walmart trip was needed. I got ready and put on my work uniform, which was a light blue shirt with my work logo and job title stitched on the upper left in clear white letters, pants, and black shoes. I also had on a dark green sweat jacket since it was cold. I got to Walmart roughly at 10 o'clock, put my mask on, and hurried inside so I could get in and out quickly. I rushed to the drink aisle and started looking for cherry soda. A lady came up from behind me, grabbed my arm, and started pulling. "Lady, I have been looking for one of you fools for 20 minutes. Now take me to insert electronics section item here." A bit taken aback, I slid my arm out of her hand and politely informed her that I did not work at Walmart. She did not like that and started yelling about how I was being disrespectful and that I was dressed like I was an employee. I started paying little attention to her and finally found my drink. I began walking away, but this lady grabbed me again and started yelling louder. "Lady, you little brat, pay attention to me or you are going to regret it. You better help me, or I will go to your manager." I rolled my eyes and said, "Ma'am, as I said before, I do not work here. Please leave me alone, I am in a hurry." She did not like this. She yelled, "Liar." I pointed at the words stitched on my shirt. She then let me go, and thinking that was the end of it, I said, "I would help you find someone, but I am in a hurry." I tried to leave again, but she got in front of me and said something I don't recall, because the next thing I knew, she punched me in the chest hard. Already struggling to breathe, I blacked out and dropped the drink I had picked up. When I came to, I was in front of the store with the lady and the store manager already arguing, and the police had been called. The manager noticed I was moving and said, "Son, can you stay? The police are on the way. Are you okay?" I struggled to answer, just trying to catch my breath. I simply looked at the manager. The police arrived, and around that time I was able to speak a little, though I became winded just talking. The manager showed the camera footage to the officers, and I was asked if I wanted to press charges alongside the manager. I said, "No, I have a lot going on. I just want to get my items and go." I know, that was not wise. The manager then got an employee to help me gather my items. I noticed the puddle I had made from spilling the first drink. After that, I got my things, paid, and left the store. Sadly, it was only 10 minutes before my shift, so I had to go straight to work. Update. I am putting this here for those who may see this in the future. I called Walmart and spoke to the manager, who gave me the officer's contact information. I then contacted the officer and officially pressed charges. Here is my explanation for why I did not do so at the time this happened. I could not breathe well, and I just wanted to take my medication to get myself stable as quickly as possible. Looking back, I agree with all of you. I should have pressed charges immediately. Also, yes, I am drinking the cherry soda because cherry cough syrup does not taste good, nor does it actually taste like cherry. Story 5. My best friend owns a lakefront property that is only a couple of hours' drive away from my home. It's the kind of place that only recently got decent cell service, and it was exciting when the only local grocery store, which closes at 6 p.m. and doesn't open on Sundays, started accepting credit cards instead of being cash only. Suffice it to say, it's not exactly easy to just run to the 24-hour corner store for necessities. Last year there was a bit of a problem involving someone who had enjoyed a few too many drinks late at night and a splitting axe. So, this year my friend invested in a huge load, I believe it's called a cord, of pre-chopped firewood that spent the summer sitting a safe distance from the fire pit. Over the course of the summer, we burned through about 90% of it. The remaining 10% posed a problem, as termites had found it, and the lake house is made of wood. 10% of a huge load is a lot of wood, and my friend rather enjoyed having a house. Solution: bonfire. We made the most of it and threw a party. Friends brought up sides, and there were several grills and a smoker being put to use. During the organizing for this, I was tasked with bringing the ingredients for s'mores. A lot of s'mores. When I was given this task, I made a point to ask around and confirm nobody had a sensitivity to gluten. Nobody said they did, so I got the inexpensive kind of crackers. The party started in the afternoon, and everyone was having a fantastic time. Several people who were out on the lake and got lured in by the smell of all the meat cooking asked if they could have some, and the answer was, of course, they could. My friends are those kinds of people, and there certainly was enough food for everybody. When the sun started going down, preparations were made to light the fire, and the fun police read, wives and girlfriends ruined everything by making sure no lighter fluid or gasoline was used. Just a regular boring grill lighter, some paper, and the powdered wood left by the termites. Can't have everything. Once the fire took off properly and it got a little darker, I started issuing wooden skewers and marshmallows to the kids so they could make s'mores. Adults were self-serve, and I didn't feel like I needed to inform them that they shouldn't poke anyone or anything with the skewers. One unfamiliar little girl and her mom popped up in the line. I gave her the same instructions I gave to everyone, and the child's mother asked, "Do you have gluten-free graham crackers?" I shook my head no and apologized, saying that kind is a bit expensive, and when I asked earlier, nobody had said they had a sensitivity to gluten. I figured it wasn't a huge deal, just add another piece of chocolate, and it's a s'more if you use your imagination. Shortly after that encounter with the woman, which I had foolishly assumed was settled, I heard a child scream and start splashing down at the water. I dropped everything and ran over, as did most of the people at the party. Dark plus water equals scary, so it became an all-hands-on-deck kind of situation. Happily enough, the child in question was fine. He had tripped and face planted off a dock into water that was only about a foot deep. He just scared the daylights out of himself. Nothing that a towel and a change of clothes couldn't fix. When everyone returned to the fire, something was missing. All of the items to make s'mores had disappeared. Marshmallows and skewers were still there, but no crackers or chocolate. I started scratching my head and asked loudly if anyone knew what had happened to them. That's when the woman I'll call Gluten Mom spoke up, saying, "My daughter couldn't have an s'more. That wasn't fair to her." I just stared at her. "So, what did you do with the crackers and chocolate?" "I threw it in the fire. I can't stand it when people deliberately exclude my daughter. Now you've learned your lesson." I was still in shock. "You threw the food in the fire?" "Yup. Walmart has gluten-free. You can just go get them. They're not that expensive." The nearest Walmart to the camp is a 45-minute drive one way, and most of the adults had already had a couple of beers by that point. Soon after, the kids who hadn't gotten distracted when someone fell in the water started coming back with varying amounts of char on their marshmallows, excited for their last s'mores of the summer. And they were just as confused as I was about where the rest of the ingredients had gone. Parents grabbed new skewers and marshmallows, quickly realizing something was missing. "Where'd the rest go?" I just pointed at Gluten Mom. "This woman threw it all in the fire because I didn't bring gluten-free crackers." "She did what? Who even is that?" someone asked. She was one of the people who had shown up on a boat, drawn in by the smell. Nobody actually knew who she was. By then, kids had started crying. Parents were giving her looks of pure disgust. And this woman had the audacity to say, "What's the big deal? Walmarts are everywhere. You'd better go now." But instead of leaving, she doubled down and started getting louder. "You made me do that. I didn't do anything wrong. You did when you excluded my daughter." The person who had brought her to the gathering finally showed up, asked what had happened, and when they were told, didn't even seem shocked, just tired. "I'm sorry. This is her first time up here. She didn't know." Gluten Mom squawked, "No, we're going." Everyone else finished their toasted marshmallows, but it was a gut punch that she had managed to ruin summer's last hurrah for us. Story 6. I've always had a fraught relationship with my parents. If I had to briefly summarize the last few decades of our relationship, I'd say that my dad is very stern, controlling, and emotionally volatile, and my mom is an absolute cacophony of anxiety. My father embodies the traditional husband role. He can be caring, but he has complete dominion over my mother and will tell her what she can do, when she will be home, what time she will go to bed. That woman better have dinner ready, and, by God, she will not talk back. My mother has good qualities. She's generally kind and caring, but she tends to be an absolute doormat. She lets others treat her badly, her husband especially, and is frustratingly spineless at times. Her modus operandi is to take the path of least resistance, behavior that led to a rift between us as she sided with my dad's abhorrent actions because appeasing him was more beneficial than siding with her son, such as when I found CP on my dad's computer. We'll add an addendum at the bottom since this seems to catch people's attention. So, my parents have retired to Portugal, but they came over to visit. I recently went no contact with them for about a year, but we've somewhat patched things up over the past year where our relationship is shallow, but relatively amicable. My parents were staying with some of their friends, but my dad took offense to how much work he was doing and how little his friend's wife was doing, so he blew up and asked to crash at my place. My father was clearly making an effort to be more accommodating. He asked me 1,000,000 times if it was okay if he bought a mattress for the guest bedroom, because he didn't want to make changes that I wasn't okay with. This effort was self-derailed pretty quickly. The conflict I was offered help incessantly. My girlfriend and I were in the process of moving, and my dad offered to help us move furniture. I preferred to do it on my own, so I politely declined. But he kept offering, over and over and over. He'd insist to help, and he'd keep fucking asking within minutes of me saying no thank you. Later, my dad handed me a package, and it was a new $1,000 phone that I never asked for, that I don't need, and that I genuinely don't want to have. He didn't mention anything until it arrived. He started ordering furniture for the guest bedroom without asking, which was a departure from, "Are you sure it's okay if I get a mattress to sleep on?" He kept asking if I wanted food, and I said no thanks, and he'd bring food home anyways. He took us out for dinner and a bit of his plate for me, and then he demanded that I eat it. My mom said he bought me a smoker and then returned it since he was getting the sense that I didn't want to accept his barrage of arbitrary gifts. I can see how I might come off as ungrateful, continuously ducking my dad's attempts to bond. But I swear to God, there is something seriously wrong about the gift giving. He won't take no for an answer. He displays passive aggression when I don't give in, and he absolutely will not tolerate the boundaries I put up. This has also been. Things seemed fine on Tuesday. The demands to provide for help me had been minimal throughout the day, and my girlfriend had offered to make a nice dinner for us. My parents were enthusiastic about it and kept commenting about how good it smelled. My partner and I stepped out for a brief walk while the pasta sauce simmered, and when we got back, my parents were right at the door. I asked them if they were heading out, and my dad said yes. My mother, with tears in her eyes, sputtered out, "Everything is going to be okay." At this point, I got the sense that something happened, and that they were leaving. I asked my mom if I'd see her again before she went back to Portugal, and she said, "You're young, you can do whatever you want," which left me dumbfounded. What the hell is going on? I've seen my dad get his feelings hurt over nothing and make a scene about it before, so while I was caught off guard, I wasn't shocked. My partner was incredibly offended. However, they tried to Irish goodbye us as she was cooking them dinner. We can only speculate what pissed my dad off, and I don't care to give him a chance to explain himself. I'd love to just go on and on about my family dynamic, especially since I've been exploring it a lot recently, but I'm opting to leave things here for brevity. Worth noting that, with my mother at least, my relationship was definitely inappropriately enmeshed growing up, which was a pretty big revelation for me. I would love to hear about others with parents and inappropriate/excessive/obsessive giving. I'm struggling to take in this behavior, and I'd appreciate the perspective of others. If anyone wants me to clarify anything, I'm chomping at the bit to explain what's up, so feel free to ask. Edit. Okay, looks like I need to address the CP. When I was 17, my father confiscated my phone due to my grades in school. About 6 months into my phone being confiscated, I went onto my dad's computer because I needed the router password to set up a Minecraft server. I thought maybe it'd be in my father's passwords folder, which was a big mistake. It was his pornography folder, which had some strange stuff that doesn't fit into his image of being a big, tough, straight, manly, definitely heterosexual man. Before my phone was confiscated, I was intimate with a girl around my age, under 18, and she had sent me nude images of herself. I also had images from a photo shoot I did with a friend, in which she was shirtless but had her breast covered artsy. Not pornographic, but still lewd enough for my father. He downloaded these off my phone and put them in his passwords porn folder. I went to Reddit for advice, and I was told again and again to delete my post immediately since it was an admission of having those images. When I finally confronted my dad and ran away, he threatened to get the police to pick me up. I told him that I'd tell the cops he had CP. He said that I would get on the sex offender registry since they were mine. I also saw that there were cases of this happening to minors in which they got charged. I was too scared to get the police involved following this. I came home and things were hellish for the next year. A bit after I graduated high school, I joined the military and largely limited communication with my dad, but I was still afraid of confrontation. Once I got out, I moved out of my parents' house soon after and entirely cut off communication with my father after another dispute. I have only recently talked to my father again, and our relationship has been superficial. I am not a bad person for talking to my father and feeling out where he should be in my life, and I shouldn't need to justify not speaking to my dad until the day he dies. Things didn't work out though, and that's how things are.